got it.
Okay, well, you're live.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I am trying to see if I can get to the agenda so we can put it up.
I can share the agenda if you would like.
Yeah, I think that would be most helpful to me if you just share the agenda real quick.
Let's do that. Can everyone see it?
Mhm.
I have to find you guys again. There you go. Okay. So we can do a quick roll call. Well, officially calling this to order. And again, my screen is doing something funky. So roll call. Kat Malton is here. David Glenn,
Here.
EJ.
Here.
Lewis.
Here.
And we're still waiting for Paul Ishak. And in his void, I will do my best to take the notes for us. I think that's everybody. So we have the agenda attached. I sent last night. Well, actually, first we have to approve the agenda or the meeting minutes. That was sent as well. We do have one requested edit, and that is to take a person's name off that was actually not attending. And
That was Tammy, right?
yeah,
Yes.
so do I have agreement that we take her name off?
Agreed.
Okay. Other than that, can I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
I'll second it.
That was Joe. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. So that's our next up is discussion of topics. Sent around to you all last night were the existing truck routes, or actually, I'm going to let you talk about it, Joe. And I can share that document if you want to stop sharing. Adam, you good? Share screen. And screen share. Okay, can you all see it now?
Yes, I got it.
I got it.
Okay, go ahead, Joe. Want to talk about what you did?
So, sure, I like how you said I did, because basically I went over to our planning department and they were gracious enough to provide this in an electronic format, which identifies what our current permitted truck routes are. So, using the language that we had from our last meeting, the red that you see on the map is the current permitted truck routes as they are today, as they exist today. And then the yellow is obviously all the offshoot streets that they would not be permitted on. To that point, I was open to, I guess, to have that conversation and maybe ask Lewis, I know that you had referenced when they did the Baltimore County and Baltimore City, they used the color red for the permitted routes. And again, this is just speaking for me. I know when I see the color red on like anything code wise, I think that that means a no kind of deal, or, i.e. stop. So I didn't know if that was what we should continue to stick with, but nonetheless, based off the request, that's what this map is right now.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, actually. I agreed with you a long time ago when Baltimore City developed its map, because that's my interpretation of it too, is that if I see a red route, that's the restricted route. And yet the city decided to proceed with that. And now I feel like certainly it made sense to try and stick with what other jurisdictions were doing for continuity's sake, unfortunately, so that they could easily see, hey, that route is red in the county, and it's also red here where it connects. And so that's why the county then also did that with the city to kind of mirror what they're doing. I do agree with you, but I also think now, because the city still did it that way, that there's a lot of value from an industry standpoint, and in the kind of expectation that if I'm following a red route, I can follow it, all the way through.
Okay, yeah, I mean, and again, I only referenced it. It was a more of an opinion on my part than anything. There's no other basis behind it. But I can tell you the folks that I reached out to, that when we went to get the map, had that exact same question. They were like, are you sure you want to use red? Da 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 da. But we don't need to belabor.
Totally agree.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we don't
totally.
need to, I mean, if it's a continuity thing, and I'll say the industry standard, then I certainly can evolve and, whatever, and get over it, so to speak. But so anyway, so to your point, Councilwoman, that is the map of the existing routes. I know that maybe there should be some discussion spurning off of that, if I guess we wanted to consider some changes or whatever, but that's what's existing as it is today.
Okay, so let's have discussion on that topic. On all, does everyone concur on the routes as identified, or does anybody have any suggestions for additional routes to be added?
I think what I would say, and I know this was, I guess, a most recent, not so much that a route needs to be added, but Ontario Street specifically coming in from Route 40 is not posted, but clearly should not be a truck route. So I don't know if that's in our next conversation when we talk about signs, but that 800 block of Ontario coming in from Route 40 is not currently posted, but yet, for whatever reason, all of Ontario on the north side of Route 40 is. So quite frankly, I guess what I'm saying is the entire Ontario Street, for lack of better words, should be a no truck route, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I concur with that. In fact, I saw firsthand a tractor trailer coming from the
Right.
bridge, trying to make the left on Ontario. He was having a hard time navigating the left,
Yeah,
tied up traffic trying to go across the bridge. But once he navigated it, once he got to Juniata Street, he had a hard time making the right-hand turn.
yeah, there, I mean, and that's just it, is he shouldn't be there, but without it being properly posted,
Right.
that's where I think we need to attack that first.
So I know the other topic that you had brought up, Joe, was the question of Pennington. If Pennington should be added
Yeah.
as a route.
Which, yeah, I know that was a sidebar as well, that the exact same reason that Ontario should not be, I think Pennington is wide enough. And for that matter, Pennington is going to be I'm sorry, my phone is going nuts. Is going to be, when they do the downtown revitalization, that's going to become the gateway. And so I would imagine, as well as the delivery route for all the equipment. So Pennington, I'll say my opinion, probably could be or should be a permitted truck route.
Any discussion on that?
I'd
I
agree.
concur. I concur.
I'd
Okay.
agree. And on a similar note, based off Captain Alton's input, so we met with the Route 40 folks and also the
Who is we?
city representatives. So if you want me to name them all, I believe the planning department, Diane, and I'm not sure if Marissa was there, but also Steve Yamatoria, Chris Ritchie, Tim Whitty, and myself. And discuss some of the future planning and the priority for Harford County. And additionally,
Hold on, you met with Route 40.
It was the transportation priority letter meeting.
Okay,
It was in regards to that resolution that council passed a few weeks ago.
correct, thank you.
so met with elected officials or county government?
Adam, you know that one?
It was the Castley administration and a representative from SHA. No, I'm sorry, not SHA. It was Department of Transportation, though.
Hey, just real fast, I have to step out of my office for this. I'll be right back.
Yep,
So we also met with the Susquehanna River Rail Bridge project folks. And on the same note for Pennington contingency, we need to coordinate a contingency for Lewis Bridge. And also the blanking on the name, sorry, Otsego Street. So Otsego is currently, is this in the red up here that we're looking at?
yes.
That
No,
is-
yes, no, yes, in the
That
red,
is a current route, correct?
correct.
So the Otsego to the right, if we're looking at Juniata, you're going up with an arrow. To the right, that area is going to be blocked off due to the River Rail project, River Rail Bridge. And we need to
You're
think,
talking about the new train tracks.
yes, they're going to close
Okay.
down that entire road during the upgrades that are supposed to take place. I can't think of the time frame, but it's on their website. But they're going to close that down at 3 to 4 month intervals. So that whole road's going to need to be rerouted. So that's something to think about in terms of a contingency plan for Otsego.
So that makes Pennington.
Right.
So if Pennington and
Street is not an option.
what's that?
Green Street is not an option. If you're looking at the
Mm.
next going down, Green Street that's way too narrow.
So what is affected by that? Is there major businesses affected by that shutdown?
I believe that's the transportation route for most of the restaurants for Cisco trucks.
On Otsego?
Yes,
So
But if
can
we had
use-
Pennington, they could have
yes.
access to the downtown area.
So Captain Malden, I think maybe we should add a secondary route as well in our planning for the shutdown during the River Rail project, River Rail
Right.
Bridge, and also for the Lewis Bridge shutdown. I think Councilmember Boyer mentioned a alternative route on Pennington for Otsego. But if we could go over to Lewis Bridge real quick.
The Lewis Bridge, they shouldn't be traveling on that road anyway.
Right, yeah, I was gonna say, Lewis, we talked about that. That already is posted. That goes to, I guess, our next point of topic, that the signs over there are not proper, like, that's that whole confusing sign type deal. To your point,
Let's
EJ,
stop- okay,
I'm sorry,
stop on Pennington before we get on to the next one. So do I have a motion to add Pennington as a truck route?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
I'll second or third.
Everyone in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. So we have that as an ad. Now let's talking about Lewis, it's Lewis Lane.
Lewis Lane, right?
So this, I guess, and this probably goes more so, again, I'm gonna ask Lewis a question. So Lewis, the project that EJ is referring to, for lack of better words, when that side of the city gets shut down, we're gonna
Right.
have to obviously enact detours. So everything short of obviously posting detours with signs or whatever, but would there be a way to communicate, I guess, to the trucking community? And then the recommendation that I would say is trucks would just come in from Revolution Street down, and then if they have to go downtown, they can come down Juniata and go up Pennington. Or if they're on that side, or whatever, they can shoot straight down Revolution to like the area where like Citizens and so forth. But my question, I guess, is the best way to communicate it back to the industry, besides just posting bright orange signs that says detour, is there some way to once all that ends up taking place, do we need to draw a whole new map, or can we just shoot a quick email and say, hey, by the way?
Yeah,
Well,
I-
Captain, if they come in Revolution, they could go all the way down to either Union or Market Street.
Agreed. Yeah.
So they wouldn't have to make the left on Juliet if they didn't need to. If they're trying to get to the downtown area.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you're right. I mean, they could use Union and take that down to Pennington to get that part of downtown. So
Now,
yeah.
the only question I would have is when they do the rail bridge project, when you're coming to Otsego Street would be open up to Juniata Street. Is that correct?
That's what I'm asking you guys about. I'm not really sure on that one either.
See, that's the part I didn't understand. I know the way they were, I guess, explaining it is that maybe Otsego on the inside of Juniata is definitely what's going to be closed. I'm not 100% sure, but because of that being closed, my point would be is that you might as well just detour trucks off of that little 2-block radius of Otsego anyway, and have them just use Revolution Street or whatever.
and I don't think you need to, coming back kind of to your question, I don't think that you need to adjust your map to reflect that, right? Because it's a temporary situation is what you're referring to, right? Because detour signs, especially if they designate a particular route as a truck detour, and they're following that signage, right? And then as long as you don't go posting a camera, obviously along those signs on that roadway, then it doesn't really turn into an issue. With regards to notification, the biggest challenge from a notification standpoint is one, so we have a lot of members in our association, right? We have about 1,000 companies, but if I blast out a particular route and things like that, a lot of times it doesn't get to the people that it needs to get to, or they're just not even looking because they may not ever be making a delivery in Havre de Grace, for example, right? So one of the best ways to do that, I think, is to work with local businesses on a notification so that if they're willing to notify whoever their transportation company, whoever is supplying to them, that's because that's the kind of traffic that you're trying to address primarily, is probably not any sort of through traffic in that area, but predominantly making local delivery companies aware. And so, some kind of simple notification where they can advise, if somebody's using Cisco or Save All Foods or something like that, that they can
Gotcha.
notify them, and then they'll spread it within their company.
No, I'm glad you answered it that, because we have a great relationship with our downtown business community.
That's
So
perfect.
It would be super easy to, when we know that this is going to happen, we can literally call a meeting with them and say, hey, just give you a heads up.
Yep. Or if
Okay.
you have a local chamber, right?
Yes.
Anything of that. Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely.
One of the things I would recommend though is I would push hard to keep Otsego Street open up into Juniata Street, because if you have somebody come across the bridge, the Hayden Bridge, and you cut off Otsego completely, you're going to make them go all the way down to Stancil Field and do a U-turn to come back in. What's going to happen is they're gonna take the shortest distance between 2 points, and they're gonna use Lewis Lane and go down that road, which is not only residential, but it's a school zone. And if we can keep trucks from doing that, we've got to try to make every effort to do that, because I think that's going to be tragic, if they start using it as a cut through.
Yeah, I
So
think
when
that
you start
portion will be
thinking,
open.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Louis. I was just
No,
saying,
no,
I think that portion is going to be open, just the portion right of Juniata,
Okay,
the eastern side.
okay.
So then I think we would be okay then.
For an alternative route on Juniata and Pennington.
Yeah,
Yes.
but they would be able to, like, it's the old, if they came in, or whatever, they can certainly make the turn on the Juniata, quite frankly, either direction.
So
Um,
isn't Warren Street a parade route anyway? So couldn't a truck?
Warren is a parade route, but it's a parade, I mean, you could. I wouldn't make that a truck route. I mean, you can navigate it, but it's not, I mean.
Not a truck route, but an alternative when Otsego shut down?
For local traffic, but
Yeah,
not.
thank you, yeah, I wouldn't make it a truck route,
I'm just asking.
yeah.
And then Lois, do you have a example of a truck detour sign that we could purchase? Are you-
So, I don't have a detour example, but I can see if I can find one. I can tell you that neither Baltimore City nor Baltimore County provided me with their restricted signs that they're using. Baltimore County responded a couple of times and said, "Oh, I know, I got to get you those." Baltimore City just went stone cold silent on me putting in that request.
Yeah, I know right now we only have detour signs. We don't have any truck specific.
That are specific to trucks. Yeah.
So is that part of the manual or uniform traffic control devices?
Yeah, MUTCD code.
It's the Maryland Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices. So if there's a
MUTCD.
sign there, that's the sign we should use.
Yeah.
So we have an alternative to Lewis now, or we don't? No truck should be on Lewis.
No truck should be on Lewis as far as I'm concerned.
Where's the regular traffic rerouted if Lewis Bridge is closed, in your opinion, Dave?
Well, the thing is, it's not, the trucks don't use Lewis Lane now. They shouldn't. So closing the Lewis Lane Bridge,
No, I'm saying if Lewis Bridge is closed for like a certain amount of time to build a new bridge, where would all the traffic go, like regular traffic?
I would say it would come down Revolution Street,
Yeah.
Okay,
come down Revolution, and the only, now the thing is, and the challenge will be local traffic and school buses.
yeah, that's what I was kind of gearing towards is, and how that would affect the semi trucks and the large delivery trucks being backed up in traffic.
Yeah, I would think that, I mean, buses would have two options. They could come down Otsego Street, go down Juniata Street, make a right on Revolution and then backdoor into Lewis Lane. Or they could come all the way down by Stansel Field and do a U-turn and come down Revolution Street that way. They would have access either way trying to do that. But those are the only two routes that they would have available.
Okay. So I posted in the chat group a project link that they shared with us to follow for the project status. Because this is going to be a very big deal, traffic wise, once this area closed down for this River Rail project. So it says project status and it's blank, but they're probably going to be updating that soon based off what they told us in the last meeting.
And did you have a time frame for that?
That's what I was just explaining. It doesn't say on there, it just says like project status is into the design phase and there's no timeline. So all we can do is best guess right now, but this is gonna be a very big impact on the community, businesses, the truck routes, everything.
Did they indicate at all that they have funding for that project? Because that's gonna be a monumental.
That's why I shared the link with the president came out and funded a bunch of projects. I shared that information too.
Okay.
It's like 1.8 billion they spent for roads, bridges, and roadway safety for this project. So
Okay. So those are our existing truck routes. Are there any other, we've said that we're adding Pennington. Well, let's just all concur here. So in regards to Lewis Lane, can I have a motion that says we do not recommend trucks for
Lewis
use
Bridge,
lane, just Lewis Lane in general?
I'll make that motion.
second,
Who was the second? EJ?
yes.
Okay, all in favor? Okay. So are there any other truck routes that should be added to this map? I'm thinking, do we need to extend any of them to go down to any of the marinas, or is that considered local traffic?
So one thing to just kind of keep in mind is that you guys have a designation of prohibited truck routes, right? So that you might want to reconsider if you actually want to show those all color coded or not, or you may want to rephrase it if this is how you're going to post it, to make it clear that it's local deliveries only, right? Because every route is legal if you have to make a delivery on it. But there is a route I was curious about because it doesn't seem to go anywhere. It just seems to dead end. And again, forgive me because I don't know all of your geography, not being from there. There's Clark Road, which is a red route, but then seems to just come to a stop.
It does, that's an industrial park,
Okay,
which is
There's a
why,
roundabout there.
yeah, and
okay,
it basically ends, of all things, at a plant down there that clearly big trucks go to in and out every day.
sure. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I
Yeah,
appreciate
no
it.
worries.
And the same thing for Old Bay Lane. That's industrial and that goes to our National Guard Armory.
Okay, so I didn't see that one. And then I will ask about one other area, is Commerce Street has a very narrow section of it, probably to connect it, I assume, to sort of the north-southbound of, I can't quite make out the avenue there that runs north and south, that is
No, it's-
also.
That's Union.
Yeah,
Oh, thank you. South, it looks like South Union, is that right?
correct. And so that
Okay.
little block of Commerce that you see, it's about a block and a half.
Right,
Section, that is red because that goes to the big marina that is down behind it. And
Okay.
there is a business inside of that marina that gets regular food deliveries.
okay,
And they come down Union Avenue and they use that little there's literally physically no other way to get in there, so.
okay. Nope, thank you.
Which makes my question, after looking at that, do we need to have another one? I guess it would be Bourbon. Is that how you would get large boats? Or,
No, so that, like, you're talking about like down at Tidewater and stuff.
Yeah.
I would, again, I think if we did Pennington and then we did Revolution all the way down. I don't think you want to do like any of those streets like Bourbon and Congress or anything like that.
yeah, not for the whole one. I'm thinking from Market Street down, or again, that we can just consider that delivery.
Yeah, I mean, once you get down it, right, it would all be local deliveries, and so.
Right, and the other location would be, just for edification for Lewis, would be, we have one more marina If you go down, I'm pretty sure,
Water Street.
yeah, Water Street. Down the, at the bend at Water Street and Erie,
Okay,
where our next marina is. So,
And then this is gonna be, I mean, that obviously when all that construction does take place, I imagine, and again, I'm just theorizing now, but I imagine a significant portion of Water Street will probably be closed and no traffic, period, because of that construction. So that everything from residential to stuff going in and out of that marina is gonna have to go up and down Erie. There's physically no other way to get in and out of there. I mean, just is what it
Right.
is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
and there is a restaurant there.
Should we
Right,
add,
that's what I'm getting at, right? There's a restaurant right on Water Street that obviously receives deliveries, but then, obviously patrons go there, so, I mean. I don't know, I mean, again, I don't know, but I'm just guessing, knowing the size of that construction project. That I would imagine a significant portion of Water Street will be blocked to everything.
and to that point, right, you definitely don't have to, or it sounds like you even want to designate water, right? If because you don't want trucks to use that as a route that they regularly travel unless they're delivering back to that marina area, right?
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I could tell you just, I mean, you won't have personal familiarity, but the two ends turning a truck would be, I mean, extremely tough
Yeah,
or whatever anyway. So yeah, you're not driving a truck down there unless you absolutely have to. I mean, it just is what it is.
fair
Yeah.
enough.
Go back out. So that was the discussion. Adam, what is next on the agenda?
Give me one moment. Identifying, let's see, develop a map of restricted roads and then identifying areas for vehicle height monitoring enforcement.
Okay, so let's talk about restricted roads. I sent around a document that I think I can get to it relatively simply here. I had a friend who lives in Havre de Grace drive around, and he took a whole bunch of signs or pictures of signs. I can't. So we have an array of signs. He said using the Maryland manual or uniform traffic control devices, that's the signs where you see the truck with the X through it is the correct sign. I don't know about the verbiage below it, but that part of the sign is correct.
That's definitely you're exactly right, Madam Chair. And the big challenge is the language, right? Because almost all of your signs, it looks like, and thank you for sending all those, talk about over 3/4 ton, right? And so that's where I think the confusion really lies, because like we talked about last time, just how many vehicles, even your pickup truck is more than 3/4 of a ton, or even your car weighs more than that. And so that's where, we really push from an enforcement side. What you're talking about is over 10,000 pounds, right? That's the commercial motor vehicle definition in state law and federal law. And so, that's where really we would suggest that you'd be better off with something that says something to the effect of, you can have that sign and have over 5 tons GVW, right? So, or GVWR.
That was going to be my recommendation, is that we do one standardized sign throughout the city that uses the truck with the circle, and then the language should say no trucks over 5-ton GVW.
Yeah.
And that is, you already said it, Louis, but that is the recognized standard. That's 10,000 pounds, whatever and so forth. But I know that that's the simple standard that 5-ton GVW means you don't drive a big truck down the road.
Okay, so what about the location on underneath of it? Can we just get a standard sign that has the truck out with the over 5 tons GVW and then have an additional sign under it that can be modified to explain which road we're talking about? In this case specifically, I'm going to make this bigger so you can see it and you can see how it's not
You're talking
even.
about- so like this one says Lewis Lane on it, for instance. Yeah, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, I think you could get a sign that says anything you want on it.
Right, well, that'll make it so that we have a standard sign and then we just modify with what's underneath of it.
I'm not opposed to that. If anything, that just helps spell it out a little bit more clearly.
EJ, do we still have EJ on?
Yep.
Okay, EJ, what is your opinion on this?
Yeah, just ask you for budget approval for, we got to pull all those signs and get all new signs, but I think it's a good idea to help delineate what we're requiring versus the hodgepodge of signs, making it more uniform.
Well, we have to coordinate with state agencies too, because this is, if I can get, I don't know if I can make it go down.
Yeah, I'm on the FHWA sign website, and it's specific verbiage for each one. None of them have like street or any other room for it, and they tell you like the spacing for everything. So I'm not sure, we'd have to ask for guidance, but some of
Yeah.
them can get pretty wordy for long road names.
Right, so this one here is on 155, which is the state road. And, I think it's because it's, I think it's readable. I think it's just because of the photos digitized. So that takes it back down. And, we have a hot bus in Erie.
The one thing, I would definitely encourage you to use GVWR instead of GVW, right? Because as Captain probably already knows, is that right? If you GVWR is the maximum weight that the manufacturer rates it, and if you just put GVW, you could have a truck that is below 10,001 pounds when it's unloaded that could legally use your street. And I don't think you actually want that, right? So GVWR would be your clearest designation because that's based on what the manufacturer, it'll capture all of the vehicles that you want to capture.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Excuse me.
So I think that's all of the signs that I had pictures of.
So they have,
Okay, so go ahead.
they have, if you scroll, I'm going to send you this sign, Lewis, if you could just scroll down. It's going to sound crazy, but just scroll down to page 158 on this link I'm going to send you.
Yeah.
You don't mind?
Sure.
So that last link, and then scroll down to 158 for the page.
Is that in the chat?
Yes. So this is the same MUTCD code.
So like the weight limit 10 tons side, and is that what you're directing me to?
Yeah, I don't see anything for gross vehicle weight other than on page 162 where it says weight limit 2 tons per axle, 10 tons per gross. But it gets even more specific if you go down to 164.
Yep. I'm just yeah. Yeah, so they're getting into a lot of different specificities here where, I mean, if you have a sign that says no trucks over 10,000 pounds, GVWR, everybody knows what that means. Or if you say over 5 tons, GVWR, everybody knows what that means. And it also, from an enforcement standpoint, hits.
What if we put out these truck route signs too on 168?
Hold on, let me go right back to it. Because actually there is also in the manual that Cassie referenced, they have an example of those truck route signs also. So what page are you on that one? 168, you said?
Yeah, it says truck route. So maybe
Yep.
we have everything you can't do. Maybe we just guide them along and tell them what they can do.
And that's a really important component. I absolutely agree with you that when they're on the proper route, you want to make sure that's known, right? So we do agree with that concept, that's very helpful so that they are aware that they're on the correct roadway.
I'm close. There's 168.
What I think you guys have to ask yourselves is, are any of the roadways that you've designated by posting a truck route sign, from a political standpoint, are you going to get any fallout for that by putting up a potential sign, somewhere where that might not be as popular? So
I'm gonna defer that question to the councilwoman.
fair enough.
Yeah.
I think it makes,
All the locations.
I mean, it takes all the confusion out of it. It does add more signs, which is like what I'm kind of against, but like right now, it's sort of like, well, you can't turn here. So does that mean everything else is legal? You know what I mean? So maybe that'll help, like, you take Juniata, take Revolution, take anything other than X Street.
I guess my only question, though, EJ, would be if we went, we would end up posting a lot of signs.
Yeah.
I know. I know.
Yeah, so again, and so as much as I was sarcastic and joked, but putting that back to you, obviously it's your team of folks that would be out having to put all these signs up and then maintain them, and
Yeah, I guess I was just asking like what they did to clearly define the truck route.
Yeah, no, I got it. I think that would be a ton of signs.
Yeah, I actually asked that question of the city and county after our last meeting as well. Like, how do you designate? What language do you use? And again, I haven't gotten a response from them. What language do you use, either in your code, because they don't have every single route posted, right? And so in their code somehow, if it's either explicitly stated as prohibited, or if you're on a route that isn't designated and you're not using that as the shortest practical route to make your pickup or delivery, right, then it is restricted. But how that language is worded, I don't know in their city and county code. But there clearly is a way that they are doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the next part of our conversation. And quite frankly, Louis, at this point, is there the next email you send, can you CC me on it? So
Sure.
that I can, go through my Maryland Municipal League, contacts
Sure,
to get somebody from another end kind of pushing, saying, hey, please share this.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay,
So we're essentially, our goal right now is to tell everybody what they can't do within the city. Am I correct? Like signage wise?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the intent, yeah.
Lewis, would you agree?
Well, I think there's a way to do that without you having to post every route. Right, and that's what hearing those concerns and understanding that costs a lot of money, right, for you to post every route. That I think that what you really are trying to do, right, is clearly designate the routes that trucks should be on, ideally through reinforced signage. Clearly designate the routes where you want to make sure they stay off. And then, other routes are really based on if you're making that local pickup or delivery. And I don't know that you necessarily want or have to put a sign on every single road. Coming back to, how your code might be written.
Did they post anything on the website or anything for Baltimore County? Was it like, hey, visit our city page, look at the.
Yeah, so Baltimore, they both have their maps posted. And actually, so Baltimore County has the map, but they haven't actually launched the camera enforcement yet. That's going to actually happen in April. In fact, I'm happy to send this over to anybody who might want to participate. We're doing a webinar with them for our members that is at the end of February, where they're going to do Q&A and present on the program for our companies. Right, so maybe one or two of you might find that beneficial, because they're going to, present their program, everything that they've done to implement it, what the process will be like from an enforcement standpoint, and how companies can contest a citation or get pre-approved, because they regularly travel in residential areas based on their type of business. So I can easily send you guys the information for that if you would like.
please.
Yeah.
So what we were tasked to do, is first evaluate existing truck routes, which we've done. Next, develop a map of restricted roads in the city and a map to vehicle operators using the best available technology. So I believe the next step is to go over the list of routes that we have designated as no truck route or no trucks. And that's this list here. And what we then need to do is probably identify what the color code should be on that map, Joe, that you have.
Yeah, I
And
mean, based off, again, I'll just use, if we're gonna stick with continuity with other government entities, then we can stick with this color coding of red being the permitted route. If that's already been established, I don't want to be the guy that tries to reinvent the wheel and then cause major hiccups simply because you came to Havre de Grace. So yeah, I mean, we could stick with this and
so
then
what color should that be when we add it to that map that has red now?
it'll be the two areas. That's what I would add. So when I go back, I'll have them add Pennington in as red. And that was actually the only street that I have right now that I'm adding is I'm adding Pennington back in, but I would add it in as red.
But we need to designate according to the resolution, it specifically asks us to identify, oh, where did it go? Develop a map of restricted roads in the city. So in addition to that, we have to add another layer that shows the restricted. So Louis,
So,
what color? should
Yeah,
that
let
be?
me be really careful about that, right? Because you don't want to have desert. Right now, I know you have kind of all the yellow in the example we were looking at. So you don't want to suddenly designate every single road that you have in yellow as restricted, right? So here's my question based on the way your code is, because so you have about 9 roads there that are listed as those are currently designated as no trucks, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and signed that way, correct?
Well,
Except, yeah, for the like the one, and I mentioned it earlier, there's the 2 blocks of Ontario Street
Yeah.
that absolutely should be posted, but aren't.
Okay,
And-
but there's other parts of Ontario that are posted.
Exactly, yeah, and so it's, again, I don't think it's a question of whether or not we agree Ontario Street absolutely should be posted. Just for whatever reason, there's a section, and go figure, it's a section that comes off a main artery, i.e. Route 40, that should be posted and it's not. And so it definitely should be
Right.
posted.
so in Baltimore City, so I'm just putting a link in the chat that just shows you the Baltimore City map. And for them, there's only one route, I believe, that is completely designated as restricted. And it's in kind of a lighter blue color, you'll see. But other things do, and then they have overnight restrictions like 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. But this way everybody can sort of see what I'm talking about. Obviously, there are many more routes in the city
Right.
that aren't here, and all of them are essentially restricted if you're not making a local delivery,
Gotcha.
right? That's the key piece, is that, I want to be on a red route as close as I can to get to my destination. Then when I come to the intersection, I can jump on a blue route for my local deliveries, and then I just deviate from that blue route when I get as close as I can to where I have to exit to make that actual pickup or delivery.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, so a light blue is the color we're gonna
For the-
identify.
And
Nine-
the only one there, you see right there along the waterfront, you could see
Yeah.
it says it's right there up above. If you see Fairfield down there, and then you just go straight north of Fairfield, it's kind of right. I know we can't see each other's cursors, but it kind of give you a sense. And if you guys see it, there's only one. If you see where it says By Right Garage,
Yep.
and right down below that, there's a blue local route, but then right below that is a restricted route, which is that kind of lightish, that more turquoise-ish style.
Okay, so I understand clearly, when I go back and redo this, then it's those 9 streets that we're referring to, we will put into a light blue.
Roger.
Yeah,
I say we just do our own, in my own opinion,
Okay, what color do you suggest?
just because it's gonna get confusing to explain if the go route's red.
We just had this conversation at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah, I know. I just, looking at that map, if you go back to that map. So it'd be like, okay, Captain Alden, explain what route I should use. And when you look at this map, what are you gonna look at immediately if you're somebody that doesn't know the city?
again, I agree that the red to me, would be confusing, but then again, I'm not an industry standard guy in regards to having the background. So I would explain it, as I think we've said, that for a continuity perspective, the red route is what has been identified as the acceptable truck route.
Well, I was just saying, compared to our map, our maps kind of explains itself off the red line, but when you get into adding colors, it makes it extremely difficult for me to look at like that.
Well, again, that's why, like going to Lewis's point, we're gonna take a lot of this yellow back out of our map and only light blue those specific 9 streets, is the way I understood it. Unless,
Yeah, I don't think you want to color code every single route in.
no, and I sincerely apologize, but I do have a drop dead deadline at 1 o'clock for another Zoom meeting. And so.
Don't die on us.
Well, no, that's why I'm gonna have to log off.
So Joe, if you could just go ahead and make that light blue for the purposes of discussion for us to move forward for the next meeting.
Got you. For the local truck routes is going light blue.
Roger.
Got it. Okay.
Local restricted truck routes.
Local, yeah, I got you. I'm using, and I'm writing in my notes, the 9 streets that we've referenced.
Okay, great.
Okay,
I'll send around to everybody a email for next meeting date. I'm assuming this time period, 12 o'clock works for everybody.
normally, yes, unless it's today.
Yeah.
I swear to God,
EJ,
Go
it works for
figure.
you as well.
I'm sorry.
EJ, this time period works for you as well.
Yes, if you share with me your worksheet, Councilmember Boyer, I just run it next door and talk with Marissa.
Well, let Joe work on it because he's the one that started from the beginning and we'll be good. I believe it has to be given to a person who doesn't work full time for this city. So I'm going to let Joe, and we're going to stop it officially at 1 o'clock. If I can have a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion so I can get on to this next one.
A second.
Second.
Lewis. Okay, everybody in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much. I'll send dates and times around for the next meeting.